All right, hello everybody. I'm going to walk you through how to use this program called Inkscape to go in and make your clocks for your Spanish class. So the first thing you're going to do is click on the Windows button down here on the left-hand side and type in Inkscape. Seen here, Inkscape. It may take a few moments for you to have pop up, but it should show up on your screen like this. There may be an additional box in the center of your screen that says something like new document or save. You can click on that and it will open up your program for you. So the first thing I want to go over is the fact that we've got this arrow button here, and the arrow is going to allow us to be able to select and transform objects. So what that means is I'm going to be able to select things and actually be able to move them around and or be able to just have them selected so I can manipulate them. The other big thing I want to go over is this ability to be able to put in specific shapes. Now most clocks are round, so my demonstration is going to actually be around using a round or circular clock. Like I said before, we're going to be clicking back into our select tool because I'm going to manipulate this object. First and foremost, I want you to change the size of it. So I'm going to come up here to the top bar and I'm going to change my units to inches. From there, I want you to type in 4.5 in width and 4.5 in height, and go ahead and hit the enter button. Now you see that changes the shape of our overall circle. The other thing I want to go over is the fact that we can use fonts. So I'm going to show you that you can type in your numbers for your clock right up here, and you can also do words, of course. It's fonts. You also have the selection of choosing a bunch of different fonts. You may notice that you don't see an example of your font, so if you click one more time, it'll actually give you a drop down with the scrolling option, and you can kind of see some of your fonts on here, so you can select different ones and figure out which ones represent the style that you would like to have for your project. From there, you can change the scale of it down to a more manageable size. Of course, you can play around with that. The other thing you can do is go back to select, and we can click our lock tool so that our scale goes evenly for smaller or larger. And that'll allow us to change the size of our number with a little bit more control if we are trying to make, some choices happen there. From there, maybe you want to keep the scale of this together, so you can hit the right click on there and you can hit copy, and then you can hit paste, and then you can change your number to the number 2, and you can go around so on and so forth to making your numbers happen for your clock. These are of course a little too big for the scale, so you'll want to manage that accordingly for making the size of things work. Of course, the 1 is going to be coming over here. I was just trying to show you guys the overall layout for how you implement these numbers onto here. But you'll be making your clock to indicate time, and from there, I also want to note that when you're in the program is going to be relaying over to a laser cutter. The laser does not understand color. It only understands black and white. So if you make things in a bunch of different crazy fun colors, you can do that with paint afterwards, but I'm going to be cutting these for you all in wood, and the laser is going to only be doing whatever images you put onto the actual circle. So from there, speaking of images, we're going to go to our internet browser, and we are going to go in and we are going to put in the word vector, because it's going to allow us to find images that are closer to what the laser can understand, and they'll be easier to trace. And we're going to put in something like, maybe we want to do something that represents the cultural history related to corn. I'd already searched this so that I could use this as part of the demo. And in order to get it into the program, once you select whatever your graphic is, you're going to go over here and right click on the image and go to copy image. And then you're going to come back into Inkscape and hit the right click to paste. Now you can see this is really large. You can use your plus and minus keys on your keyboard to zoom in or zoom out to see what's going on in your screen. From here, I'm going to go to Path, Trace Bitmap. So that's Path, Trace Bitmap. And what this is going to do is going to pop up a function that allows us to actually bring the image into the program and get rid of some of these watermarks because they don't necessarily look the way we want them to. So from here, what we're going to do is I'm going to go up, because I'm going to get rid of these watermarks, and I can see in this live preview that they're kind of in the way. And when I bump that just a little bit, it gets rid of those watermarks, and I can go down to right here and hit apply. From here, I will go back and I'm going to delete the original image. Now you can see I actually have a little bit of a haloing, so I'm going to go back. I can take and manipulate the threshold up here to be able to scale and correct what I was talking about just now. So as you can see, I've got this watermark. If I click on here, it'll give me a preview. When I bump these numbers up, it removes that watermark, and over here you can see the new copy that I've been able to make. So I'm going to remove my original from the picture plane because I no longer need it by clicking and hitting delete. You can tell it's the original because it has this white background, but also when I double click over here on this graphic, we can see all of these nodes. These nodes are what people that do graphic design professionally are going to be manipulating typically, and indeed what you are doing in this program by manipulating these elements for a functional object that's going to get made with digital fabrication, which is what we're doing with the laser cutter, is actually a type of graphic design. So congratulations, ladies, you are doing a type of graphic design with this project. So we're going to go ahead and delete that original, like I said. And I am going to come over here and just move this so I can see things a little better for my sake in what I'm doing on my side. So I'm going to click on the rectangle tool and click and drag, and I just have it a different color so that you can see what I'm doing a little more easily, and it makes it easier for me to show in the demo. From there, I'm going to click back on the selection tool, and I'm going to make sure that both this rectangle and this object are selected. I'm going to do that by having this selected with my click of a button, and I'm going to hold my shift key and select my corn. So from here we're going to hit path and go to difference, and that will remove whatever the overlap was. And this is just a good feature of this program for making sure that you can manipulate things accordingly. Now this is just an example that I wanted to do with this corn. I'm actually not going to use the corn in the demo as far as like what I'm going to do from here on. But if you wanted to make yours about culturally representing corn or different aspects of the food therein related to Mexican heritage, I thoroughly encourage it. However, I'm going to come back over to my selection online, and I'm going to do mine as a Day of the Dead clock. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm just selecting like one or more sugar skulls, and I'm just showing you how to manipulate or remove additional things in the program. So I'm going to select these 4 sugar skulls, and yet again I'm going to show you that trace bitmap function. So from here what I've done is I've pasted it into the program, and I am going over in trace bitmap. You don't have to reopen it again, it'll already be open on the right hand side, and I already can tell in here that it's got a really good threshold. So I can go ahead and hit apply, and we've got a really crisp visual of what we want here. So I'm going to delete my original, and then maybe I only want one of these sugar skulls. So I'm going to go with this rose one. And if I double click in node mode and use my plus sign to zoom in just a little bit, I can get a better idea of where to click and delete the nodes that I don't need. And from there, you can see that I've got the one that I want to work with. And so from here, I'm going to scale it down just a little bit by clicking and dragging on here, and I am going to place it in the center. Now keep in mind there will be a hole at the center, and it may make things a little bit more difficult for you with what you're working on. The other thing that I will note is if I select my numbers up here, and I'm going to actually type this where the 12 is combined with my 1, I am going to come over here and go into Object, Fill, and Stroke. And we'll be using this a few times to do some very different, very specific things. But I'm going to go over to Stroke and make sure that this is active currently. And I'm going to make sure that it's actually white. And I'm going to come over to Stroke Style. And I'm just going to increase this just a little bit so that there's kind of like a white outline on my font so I can do my next step. Now this is only if you want to do something like this. This is a little bit of like a additional step. But if I increase my skull in scale and I push it to the back, yes, you can work with layers in this program just like Photoshop if you've done it. I can make it where I've got my numbers actually with a white outline, so that means that you'll actually be able to see everything that's going on. You'll have your larger skull, and you can have your numbers going around. And you can also do this with your fonts if you decide to put the name of your numbers, like if you're you've got like a 1, and then to practice your Spanish, you've got like uno, dos, tres underneath or beside your numbers. Now from here, I'm going to highly recommend that we go ahead and get your center portion to allow us to be able to have our cut line for the actual center of the clock, where the clock components will come out for us to be able to have our hours and minutes. So from here, what we're going to do is I'm going to get this kind of centered, but most importantly, I'm going to first be in millimeters. So make sure you're not in inches, be in millimeters. And we're going to turn off this lock setting, and we're going to type in 8 and 8 because I measured this for you already. You don't have to do any additional math, so that we can make sure that our clock components actually pop through for us. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lock function back on, and I'm going to make sure that the center circle is selected and hold my shift key and select our big circle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Object and drop down to Align and Distribute at the very bottom. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this middle line, which says Center on Vertical Axis and Center on Horizontal Axis, and that's going to make sure those are exactly dead on centered so that your clock is exactly distributed for, well, aesthetics, and also because it will help you to make it look like a clock and not have it off center. So I'm going to unselect everything here, and this is going to be the final thing you're going to do once you've got all of your numbers set up on your clock, like this. So I've got all the numbers arranged on here, and you can see in the program that I am clicking on my center circle and I am clicking on my outer circle. And this is our last step, because if we don't have the final steps laid out like this, what's going to happen is, one, the laser is not going to do cut lines, and additionally, and most importantly, it might actually cut every single part of your clock out and actually damage it and make it not be usable. So for the sake of not wasting materials in the STEM lab and in general, we are going to make sure this is our very last step. So I've said that now a few times. So make sure you do it as final step. So from here, what we're going to do is we are going to go to Object, Fill, and Stroke. Yet again, I told you we would be using this. And we are going to turn off the fill by clicking this X. Come over to our second tab. Make sure the stroke function is on the second option. And then under stroke style, we are going to make sure we are in inches. And you might have to double click on it twice. For whatever reason, the program always does that, regardless of computer it's on. And now we're going to type the only number that you have to remember in the entire program for making it make the laser actually cut, and that is 0.001. And then you'll hit enter. It's going to make everything look like it went invisible. But if you zoom in a little bit on your program, you can actually see the faintest line that's here. And that's going to let me know, as the person that's interpreting what you've done for your project, that it is indeed a cut line. I can do some additional checks, but I really want y'all to understand how I'm actually interacting with the laser. So the final thing we're going to do is, one, we're going to make sure we delete anything that is not our project off of the picture plane. So that includes other random things that you might have in the outer area that you may have just like pushed out of the way. For me, it's this random corn that I didn't end up using because we went with the Day of the Dead Skull. And from here, I'm just going to go to File, Save As, and I want to make sure that you save it properly. So I'm going to make sure that I am saving, and you guys can save it wherever. I'm putting it on my desktop, and I'm going to put my first and last name, and then Spanish, and then what hour you have. So let's say it's like Spanish, first hour, and your teacher's name. So I'm going to say that I have Miss Getty in my first hour. So from there, make sure it is saved as an SVG file, because I'm going to need to get it ready for the laser, and this is going to make it much easier on me. You're then going to click Save. From there, what I want you to do is I want you to go into Outlook, and I want you to click on New Mail, and I want you to type in morem@sjabr.org. That is me. Make sure you're not sending it to the student who has the same name as me. It's not going to be very helpful. And from there, you're going to click on here, and you're going to find your project by clicking on your attachment. Mine is the first one, so I'll go ahead and do that. Then you're going to type in something productive, which is probably, you know, professionally speaking, should probably be close to the title of what you have as your file right here. And then you're going to write me a message of some kind that shows that you can write an email professionally, and go ahead and hit that send button, and I will work on getting those run for you. From there, at some point, I'm going to have you come in while these are getting run, and I'm going to make sure that you get a chance to kind of see how the process in the STEM lab works, and I'd be happy to work with you on any additional projects. If you have any questions, you can email that I just told you, moorem@sjabr.org, and I can't wait to see what you ladies make. Bye.